All right, let's talk about the fundamental building blocks of pretty much every machine you can think of: power transmission. We're going to dive into how engineers solve one of the most basic yet most important problems out there. How do you take the crazy high-speed energy from a motor and turn it into actual useful real-world strength?
When most of us think about power, this is probably what pops into our heads, right? The roar of an engine, the smoke from the tires, it's all about that raw, blistering speed. We're talking engines just screaming at thousands and thousands of RPM. But then there's this. What about the other end of the spectrum? We're talking about the kind of immense, slow-moving strength you need to lift something that weighs, I don't know, tons, and just carefully place it way up in the sky. That's a whole different kind of power, isn't it?
So, how do you do that? How do you turn that frantic spinning speed into pure brute force? This, right here, is the fundamental challenge engineers have to crack every single day. It's this constant trade-off between speed and strength. And for our purposes, we're going to call it the power puzzle. Okay, so let's really dive into this puzzle. You see, at the very heart of pretty much any engine or electric motor, there's a basic principle of physics that kind of dictates how they like to work.
So here's the deal. It turns out it's way more efficient to generate power at super high speeds, but with a pretty low amount of rotational force. That's what engineers call torque. Think of it as twisting force. But here's the problem. Most of the actual work we need to get done in the real world, lifting heavy stuff, pushing things, pulling a load, it needs the exact opposite. It needs low speed, but a ton of torque.
So how do engineers solve this mismatch? Well, they've got this amazing toolkit full of clever little components designed to transform that power. And the first tool we're going to pull out of that kit is all about one thing: multiplying force.
I mean, just take a look at a massive construction crane. You've seen these giants dotting the city skyline, right? Just slowly and deliberately lifting these enormous steel beams. But the real magic, the secret sauce to their incredible strength, well, it's hidden in something surprisingly simple: the way they use cables and wheels. And when you zoom in, you see this incredibly complex web of pulleys. Or, if you want the industry term, they call them sheaves. Now, you might think they're just there to guide the cable, but nope. This system right here is the secret. This is where the crane gets its immense lifting power.
It all comes down to a concept called mechanical advantage. It's actually a pretty cool idea. Every single time the cable loops around another one of those pulleys, it's like adding another hand to help lift the load. It literally multiplies the force. But, and this is a huge but, there's always a trade-off. To get all that incredible strength, you have to give up speed. For every time you double the force, the lifting speed gets cut in half. No free lunch in physics. And this very same principle, trading speed for strength, it applies to winches too. You've got a motor, it's connected to a gearbox, which then turns a drum to reel in a cable. And a really well-designed winch, like the one you see here, manages that cable perfectly to give you this super consistent, powerful pulling force.
But oh man, the design is absolutely crucial. Just look at this thing. This is a prime example of a badly designed winch. See how the cable is pulling directly on the motor shaft? That's putting a massive sideways force on it, what's called a radial load. And that is just going to tear up the motor's internal bearings and lead to a total catastrophic failure. So, yeah, don't do this.
Okay, so we've multiplied our force. Awesome. But now what? How do you reliably get that power from one part of the machine to another? I'm talking about moving it between two separate spinning shafts, and, this is key, doing it without anything slipping.
Well, that's where belts and chains come into play. You can think of these guys as the essential connectors in that engineering toolkit we talked about. Their whole job is to grip onto sprockets and pulleys to transfer torque. But they also provide really precise, non-slip timing so different parts can move in perfect sync. And in some really clever designs, they can even turn a spinning motion into a straight line motion.
And this is a fantastic illustration of just how versatile they are. On the left, you've got a mountain bike. Pretty straightforward, right? The chain takes the rotary motion from your pedals and sends it to the back wheel. But look at the right. This is a robotic system. Here, a motor turns a gear that moves along a stationary chain, literally pulling the whole machine along a track. How cool is that? It's a super clever way to turn rotation into linear movement. All right, let's move on to the next piece of our power puzzle. So let's recap. We've got our high-speed power, we've multiplied the force, and we're transferring it where it needs to go. But how does the machine actually make contact with the world to do its job?
For most machines that need to move around, the answer is one of humanity's absolute greatest inventions, the wheel. Simple, right? But all of a wheel's power, its ability to push a vehicle forward, to stop it, to turn it, it all comes down to one single critical word: traction. That's it, the grip between the wheel and the ground.
So you see, a wheel is so much more than just a simple circle. Engineers have to think about a ton of different things. It's got to provide the absolute maximum amount of traction. It needs to be the right size for both speed and clearing any obstacles in its way. It has to be designed so the vehicle is actually controllable. And, of course, it's got to be strong enough to handle all the crazy forces it's going to face. So we've looked at the individual tools, right? We've got pulleys to multiply force, belts and chains to transfer it, and wheels to actually apply it to the ground. But the real genius of engineering isn't just knowing what the parts are. It's understanding how to make them all play nicely together, how to get them to work in perfect harmony. And that's because a designer is constantly doing this complex balancing act. First up, you've got kinematics, which is really just a fancy word for the geometry of motion. Does this part need to go in a straight line, a circle, some kind of weird, complex path? Then you have to think about dynamics, the real-world forces. How much weight does this thing need to handle? How fast is it going to go? And super important, how long will it last before it wears out? And then wrapping it all up is the big one, economics. Is this thing even affordable to design, build, and maintain in the long run? And honestly, that really is the key takeaway here. These fundamental pieces, pulleys, chains, wheels, they're not just in textbooks. They are literally all around us, in everything from the bike you ride to the skyscrapers that shape our cities. And once you start to understand these basic principles, you'll start seeing the clever, elegant solutions to this power puzzle everywhere you look. So the real question is, what will you notice next?